Welcome to the Wedding Workflow Podcast, the show for wedding professionals, engaged couples, or anyone involved in the wedding world. We'll be talking about everything from picking a venue, what to look for in a photographer, how to work with your DJ to get people on the dance floor, and how to handle all the craziness of planning a wedding. We hope you get something valuable from our show and our guests, and invite you to join us every Wednesday here at the Wedding Workflow Podcast. All right, and we're rolling. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Workflow Podcast. It is your host, Adam Robb. We also have Tyler Neading. And we have Carson.
What's up, baby?
and then we have our guests today. We have Brandon and Grace. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Amazing. How are you guys?
Oh, we're doing fantastic.
Doing great.
It's cold and winter is upon us. That's for sure.
Yes.
So we discovered going into this that Tyler, you know everybody in the world, and
Yeah, I do know a lot of people.
This is
Yeah.
true.
and so what's your connection? To our
Okay,
guest
so
today?
I also have like a weirdly photographic memory, but I've met Grace at a few weddings with someone she used to shoot with named Jenna. And I actually grew up with her family. Her dad used to make all sorts of fish for me.
Nice.
We called it crackfish because it's
His fish is the best.
it's incredible. And then
okay.
Brandon and I actually, I'm going to creep you out to a whole nother level, Brandon.
I'm ready for it.
I opened up saying that I had met Grace because we've actually like been at weddings together, but I know that you work at Fox in the Snow, or did. Is that true?
Damn. Honestly, yes. Very much true. I feel like that is 100% one of those things that I will never be able to get out of my past.
Yeah.
And I haven't worked there in probably close to 4 years.
Okay,
but
well, creeper level
I still
to a
get
whole
recognized
new
for it.
status. Yeah. Actually, okay, so in my defense,
love that.
I think I actually met, because I actually bought a camera off Jenna years ago, and I think we met there, and that's probably why I think I met you. She was like, "This is my friend Brandon," and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And it was super.
Okay. Definitely.
But I never forget anything, and it happens all the time where I will meet people, and I'll be like, "Oh, we met 3 times while I was here," and then
Yes.
I never tell people, but I figured I would just go for it and say it now, you know.
You know, I appreciate it. And honestly, like, I will say that is one of my things, like being in the creative industry now, like I miss having those like, oh yeah, I met you when you were, working at Fox in the Snow, or I worked at Mission, or before moving to Ohio, just the handful of coffee shops. And like,
Yeah.
that's one thing I always tell people whenever you're getting started on like a creative endeavor, like go work somewhere where you're in the community.
Absolutely.
Because you're just going to meet so many people, and that's going to be hugely important regardless of what you do down the road.
Yep.
And also just the life skills that come from that.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
I always love getting to hear that I met people, and it comes full circle.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely small world.
Small world for sure.
Yeah, and even like me and Tyler when we met, like we realized we've been to like several different shows at the same.
yeah.
Like it's great. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, it's especially like like you said, in the creative world, there's a whole lot of like, I feel like most photographers and videographers were likely musicians at one point in time.
Yeah.
So then there's like opens up this whole nother world of like, oh, before your career, what did you do? And he's like, well, I was a drummer in a band. What did you do? And you're like, well, I was a rapper, or did spoken word, or all sorts of music. And like, we did these shows together, and we didn't even realize it, or we were at a Mute Math concert in this like sweaty building, and 10 years ago,
pre-COVID.
yeah,
That's
do that
amazing.
kind of stuff.
yep.
So give us kind of like a synopsis of what you guys are all about, and because you guys have a very interesting, I think, like niche in the wedding industry.
Oh gosh. So I started my wedding photo business when I was a junior in high school. And then I did online school for my senior year. So I've been doing this for almost, how many years is that? Almost 10.
2021 will be 10 years.
Yeah, 2021 will be 10 years.
Nice.
So I guess, yeah, I don't know. So it's a lot of growing and learning from that. And I think starting in high school really put me at kind of an advantage just because I could mess around more. Then I feel like after college, you're like, oh crap, now I have to like pay back student loans and all of this, where you're like thrown into things. So I got to kind of discover what I wanted to do. So Brandon joined me when we got married.
So I feel like we keep coming back to Jenna in this, but the irony and amazing part of this is the first wedding that we ever shot together. It was shortly after I moved to Ohio, and Grace had a wedding that she was going to be shooting with Jenna out of state in Maryland for another one of their friends, Lindsay. And yes. And literally like 2 days before the wedding, Jenna called Grace and was like, I'm sick, I can't go. And Grace was like, no, you're going to be fine. It's okay, you can go. And I, like, sitting on the couch while she's receiving this information was like, oh, I can help. I got you. Like, we were dating at the time, so that level of trust wasn't fully established. But I was like, no, let me do this. I've shot a couple weddings in the past. I kind of know the workflow. Like, it should be fine. You're super chill. Like, the people you know are super chill. So we took a road trip out to Maryland, and that was the first wedding we shot together. And I'll be honest, after that, Grace was like, okay, if you're going to do this, here's the checklist of exactly what you're shooting on the day. Because very clearly I didn't know what I was doing. And 4 years later, I think, like, honestly, the thing that we bring to the table for a lot of weddings and stuff is just because we, like, shoot together all the time. We kind of have that, like, intuition of knowing, like, exactly, like, what the other's looking for and that sort of a thing. Sorry, I'm going to pause for a second. One of our cats is losing his mind just out of frame. So.
How many cats do you guys have?
We have 2 cats.
Nice.
Yeah. One of them we just recently adopted. Actually, by recently, I mean February. February of this year. And the other cat we've had basically since right before we were married. And he's been pretty phenomenal. So.
Nice.
Okay, I don't think I'll be able to hear him now.
Cool. Sorry about the little delay.
Oh, no worries.
Anyways, where was I? So we shot that wedding in Maryland, and honestly, I think that for Grace, I know specifically, was probably a moment of that, like, realization that once we had we kind of knew we were going to be getting married, I feel like, at that point. And it was going to be something that we could do together. Which would be good for a whole host of reasons, one of which being, one, just saving money on second shooters. Like, if we're being honest, like, to get a really good second shooter, you're going to be paying quite a bit. And seeing as, wedding couples are already trying to get the most bang for their buck. I don't know. I feel like I could talk all day. So I feel like you probably have more good things to say about this.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, Brandon joined me, and then we started doing a lot of, like, bigger weddings and stuff like that when we moved to Columbus. And then I decided that I didn't really want to do big weddings. So then I started offering 4-hour weddings, and that's what we've been doing for like 3 years now. And honestly, we love doing 3-hour or 4-hour weddings because we can do just as much as somebody can do in like 6 or 8 hours, just because there's 2 of us. So we can be in like 2 different spots at once. But also I feel like we've gotten it down to like the core of what a wedding is. And I just explain this all to like the clients and stuff. And I'm like, this is what you can do, and this is how you can do it. And if that works, then great. But if it doesn't, then we can figure out a way to make it work. So yeah.
That's awesome. How does that process work with?
Yeah,
so I saw it was, you guys call them. Is it the micro weddings?
Yeah, so that's something that I just introduced this year. So that's 2, 3, and 4 hour options. Just because a lot of our couples, for COVID reasons, had to cancel and delay things, and they still wanted to get married. So, and they're all like, we don't need like 4+ hours of coverage. We just need like 2 to 3 hours of just some photos of us hanging out with our members of our family, like getting married. So we started doing those, and honestly, those have been so much fun.
Yeah, that's a great skill set.
Yeah, that's a really great way to pivot your business to accommodate that. But I'm super curious about a 4-hour wedding and like how you like time it all and plan and can get all your shots and everything. That's super interesting. I like that. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I really enjoy it. I've had a lot of photographers ask me the same question, and honestly, it's so hard for me to explain. It's like one of those things where you have to be there to see it, I feel like. But we've just like narrowed it down to like know exactly how long it takes to do things, and we just set expectations up front with our clients. We're like, this is what you can realistically do in this time frame, and if that doesn't fit, then we need to figure something out. You need to like add a couple more hours or something like that. But a lot of our clients aren't super like into weddings, I guess you could say. Like, I don't like weddings. I'm just gonna say that I don't like weddings. I never wanted a wedding. Like, you know how like everybody's like, oh, you must have dreamed like all these amazing things for your wedding, and you must have had it all planned out. I'm like, honestly, I don't care. Like, I just want to marry Brandon, and that's it. I don't care what happens. And I mean, that's basically what happened with our wedding too. We just said, don't care, got married, and there it was. So I think I kind of cater more to that side of the wedding world, like people who want to get married, but also don't want to have like this big extravagant day. And I feel like I can relate so much more with them. So they're not doing like all the traditional stuff that a normal wedding would have. Like, you know, some of them don't want to do dances. Most of them do not want getting ready photos. A lot of them don't care about detail stuff. So it's more just really documenting what's going on, more so than like, okay, here's all the set, like traditional things that you have to do, and this is when you're going to do it. They're just like, oh, let's do this now if we want to, you know. It's not like major forced and restricted to the normal wedding thing.
Yeah, and I think it kind of also plays into like the efficiencies of a wedding day. I think like one of the best ways that I think about describing like a 4-hour wedding versus a 6 or an 8-hour wedding is how you want to actually like lay out your timeline for the day. I feel like, you know, one of the things that like we as photographers don't really want to talk about is on an 8-hour wedding day, how much of that 8 hours is actually downtime. I mean, pretty much every 8-hour wedding we've done, if you break it out, 4 of those hours, we're either driving to and from locations, which we're not photographing, we're, you know, just hanging out because there's quite frankly nothing going on, or, you know, they decided to have a 2-hour dinner, which nobody wants photos of themselves eating. And so I think like ultimately once you like start breaking it down that way, it like really, you start to realize that more people could get away with a 4-hour wedding. And I think that's one of the things I was really impressed. Grace like really changed all of her branding probably like 2016 to go more towards that 4-hour wedding and just showing people that you're really not sacrificing much by booking a 4-hour wedding versus a 6 or an 8-hour wedding. The only thing it's adding to your day is you have to do a little bit more work on the front end to basically prepare for that day and say, okay, the photographer is only going to be here for 4 hours. Here's what we need to get in. Other than that, like, you know, I don't really see any other sacrifices.
Yeah, I think it's just being efficient with your timeline and when you do things, you know.
The last thing is, I will say it works for us because we're a husband and wife combo, and we've shot together so many times that we get to split up. So I'll usually go hang out with the guys, Grace hangs out with the girls, which is like a common thing that a lot of couples do. But I think that like realistically, the value of that gets overlooked in how much more efficiently you can shoot throughout a day. Because if you're a main photographer that has to go to both the bride and the groom, all of a sudden, instead of taking 15 minutes to cover both of those, it takes 40, 30, you know, an hour. And so that's one of the things I think that and that's just like, you can't really do that without having like the time together working and just kind of having that like intuitive connection.
And also text messages yelling back and forth at each other.
Yeah. Lots of texting on a wedding day. A shocking amount.
Do you guys push for a first look if you're doing a 4-hour wedding?
You know, I used to, but now I don't I don't want to, put my emotions and feelings onto the couple. So I'm like, do whatever you want and we'll make it work.
Yeah.
But most of like our shorter weddings do first looks, but we've also had a lot recently that haven't, and it's been fine.
Good.
Cool. What time do you, when in the day do you guys usually show up then to begin?
I would say summer weddings, we start around 3.
Okay. I mean,
winter weddings.
Okay, like after like they got ready, or is that when you guys usually show up? Okay.
Yeah, we normally show up like right as soon as all of the people have done or have gotten ready.
Okay.
We always tell like the couple to, like, if they want getting ready photos, to just not put on their like outerwear first, and then we show up and just do the formal photos of like them putting on their outfits or whatever. But yeah,
probably like 45 minutes to an hour before the actual ceremony starts.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And then when do you usually like stay till that day? Like what event?
Yeah. So normally I tell couples to do like all of the events that they want photographed in the reception, like as soon as they enter into the reception.
Yep.
So that really is dependent upon the couple. But I would say the last thing that we normally photograph is either speeches or like their first dance, if they do that thing.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you guys coordinate with the DJ at all? Like for the timeline?
Honestly, we don't do many weddings that have like DJs.
Oh, okay.
Most of the time it's just like a phone plugged into an aux cord
Gotcha.
somewhere. Yeah.
Nice.
But for like bigger weddings, I don't normally contact vendors. But for like bigger, like high budget weddings, we all get like an email together or like email thing going and we talk back and forth. But normally the bride or the groom or, whoever wants to make the timeline makes the timeline and then checks it off with all of us. But normally the higher end weddings have a planner and coordinator, so they're doing all of that for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you guys do California and Ohio, and so Brandon, you're from California, correct?
Yes, I was born and raised in Orange County, California. Moved to Ohio in 2015 whenever Grace and I were dating. I worked in coffee at the time, so it was the easy transition.
Yeah.
Also, living expenses are way easier out here, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
My parents told me that they have one of my neighborhood friends growing up just closed on a house, and it was, I think, close to $1 million.
Oh, wow.
And
all right.
For about a less than 1,000 square foot house in the not so good part of California.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it's insane.
That's so different.
I love the living in Ohio, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I miss the beach. I will be very frank and say I miss the beach.
That would be nice.
That's the one thing. But I love that having family out there, we get to go out there pretty often. And then also with Grace putting on her website and being able to say that we are based out of Ohio and California. Thankfully, we get to travel out there fairly often for weddings and other engagements.
Yeah. That's probably good. Which
is pretty cool.
That's like a built-in excuse to like go visit your family, and you can kind of justify spending on flights and stuff.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for us because I think I love getting to go visit my family, but having the excuse that we're out there for work also keeps it from getting a little bit out of hand.
How do you guys mostly get clients out in the California area?
Most of them have come from Instagram or Google, just with a lot of SEO stuff going on. That's pretty much it, I think. A lot of them, I'm not sure how they find me, but they find me and I'm like, I'm fine with it. So let's do that.
Brandon, do you ever get it? You probably gotten it a lot. Why did you move to Ohio if you lived in California?
Dude,
he took a wrong turn
all the time, which actually it makes it really funny because now we're hyper aware. And so every time we see a California license plate in Ohio, it's always a big thing. And we always point it out. Actually, fun fact. So I finally, after living in Ohio for 5 years, got my Ohio driver's license.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
Literally the week before the pandemic hit.
Oh, man.
So I had to deal with the BMV, but not too crazy.
Yeah.
but I kept my California license, one, just because why not? But also because I love the irony of scraping ice off my car with California driver's license.
There you go.
That's how you know you're from California, is you don't have an ice scraper in your car already.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that was the thing that started it all. Was the very first winter I was here, I like walked out to my car one day, and it was like when I worked at Fox in the Snow, and I like had to get to work, and all of a sudden I realized I was like, I don't have a way to get this ice off my car.
Yep.
What am I going to do? And I literally was out there with my driver's license trying to get it.
That's funny.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you, how many, I don't know if you, I haven't seen Adam's list of questions, but I'm just going to throw some out there. How, do you guys have a wedding limit for the year, or do you guys just kind of say, let's go for it and do as many as you can do?
I would say last year was our busiest year, and that was like 23 weddings. And I got really burnt out, I feel like, especially in October.
Yep.
We had like 3 weddings in a row and like every weekend almost. So I would say there's a limit now, and it's probably around 20. But if it's like shorter weddings, then I can do more. So I just kind of gauge it depending on how many like, micro weddings, 4-hour weddings that we have. I really try not to double book weekends.
Yep.
Just because I'm an introvert, and after shooting a wedding, I do not want to interact with anybody for a week. So doing 2 weddings one weekend is not ideal for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Is this your guys' only gig at this point?
It's mine, but also I started another business this year.
Cool.
So I've been doing that too since we've only done like 13 weddings this year.
Yeah.
And Brandon does other things too.
Cool.
Yeah. Talk about, I will brag on Grace for a second. Talk about pandemic pivot. Literally, I think it was like 3 weeks into everything.
After I got my sulking and down, depressed feelings out.
Yeah.
After that. So she, for the past like year, it was like probably a year and a half ago, she got an iPad with a pencil and got it just for the sole purpose of learning how to like draw and that sort of a thing. And I've always told her that she could probably sell those drawings because they were so good literally from day one.
They weren't. They were horrible.
Irrelevant to the point. But she was able to, at the beginning of the pandemic, like start printing out, and with some help from her mom, who is just a master in terms of everything physical production, start a business selling stickers and doodles online.
Nice. That's incredible.
Which is pretty amazing. And then for me, after like a year and a half of doing just wedding videos, something that I've like wanted to do is like work more with like small businesses, that sort of a thing, helping them like really tell their stories. And at the beginning of the year, I started a series which I call This Is My Why, which is just it's based on the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. I think it should be required reading for anyone that's a human, because it just like really allows us to like connect on a very human level. Which is something that in this Instagram brand forward world, we just kind of get very disconnected from the people that, we're either serving or, whatever. And that really took off. It like by the numbers wise, it's not like it, reached 1 million people, but it performed twice as good as any other Instagram post that I did. And every single one that I've done for someone, when they've posted it, they like literally will send me the screenshot and show the exact same thing. They're like, hey, like this is doing really good. This is connecting with people. And so that's something that I really like planted my flag in this year, is like focusing on more human-based storytelling, and utilizing that as a tool for people to reach their audiences, which immediately just started getting more and more traction, because now that we're not in person with these experiences, we're, on Zoom calls 24/7, we need that human experience and we need that human connection. So I'm trying to do the best that I can to be able to, utilize photo, video, audio. I just started like getting into like podcast production just because I wanted to understand what it is about hearing the human voice that like got people to connect. So yeah, that's
awesome.
like kind of a roundabout nutshell of what I do.
So when it comes to the weddings, Brandon, are you mostly the videographer? Like, how does that work with your packages and stuff?
Yeah, so I convinced Grace through just like shooting video at weddings. I did probably like 4 videos, just like because I like told her I really wanted to do wedding videos, and she was like, okay, well, you need to show me what they're going to look like if we're going to do them. And so now like that's something that we're able to offer to people. And it kind of works out great because on a wedding day, like for the most part, like we don't entirely need a second photographer for most of the days, because a lot of the weddings we do are fairly small. They're very intimate. And the type of videos and photos that we like to deliver, I think are more like people focused. And so there's not necessarily a need to have, a ton of people around capturing everything.
Yeah.
We can be, very intentional about filming with the couple, getting family, just being more specific about what we're showing.
Yeah. So whenever somebody hires us for video and photo, I do the photo and Brandon does the video.
Yeah.
Cool. Gotcha. Nice.
Thanks for wrangling that in.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler, you maybe talk about kind of like how you've pivoted your business this year too, with like taking on like that kind of client work as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do photo and video as well. This is my, I think I just saw on my Facebook time hop, my 5th year, coming up on my 5th year.
Nice.
Full time. So yeah,
congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it's wild to get to that point and to think that I can't believe it's been 5 years. But it also feels like a decade sometimes. Yeah, before I did this, I was working at a production company, and they just it was a photographer and a videographer, and I'm super thankful for them just to have like invested in me. So I came out as not a typical, or I don't want to say typical because I feel like it's super offensive, but like I didn't just know photo or just know video. And I feel like a lot of times that is usually the case, is someone learned photo from someone or someone learned video from someone, and they rarely merge. Unlike you, Brandon, where you're kind of evolved. But I came out knowing the same amount about video as I did about photo, and was like, well, I'm just going to do both and see what happens. And yeah, last year was crazy as well. I don't know if it was just a big year for weddings, but with me, and I have a few guys that do weddings for me, I did 33 last year. And like you said, I basically wanted to die in October. It was the worst. It was just, I mean, it was great, but come October, I was just toast. And then I got married in November. So we had like our own, thank you. We had our own wedding that we were planning through all of that, which was kind of crazy. Yep. But as like this being my job, I was just like, I'm just going to say yes to every single, if I am able to do it, or if I have someone I trust enough to represent my name, which is huge. I will trust them to shoot this wedding as long as everyone is on the same page and is okay with it. But yeah, like this year was a big year. I was already kind of wanting to move towards production level stuff instead of doing just weddings and making weddings, obviously still doing weddings every year, but requiring less to and still make an income. So I was thankful to kind of move into that direction this year anyways. But then once COVID happened, everything just halted for a minute. Weddings started canceling. Corporate clients that I had said, hey, we don't have this in the budget anymore because we don't have a budget anymore, and we're pulling things here and there. But so many companies said, okay, well, we have a month, like you said, where you were kind of sulking, and everyone was just kind of chilling and freaking out, I think, at the same time. But most people said, okay, well, if this is the future, what do we do? And they say, well, storytelling is a really big thing, and video and photo is going to be really huge because social media is literally going to carry my business for the next year and a half or whatever. So I did a ton of like conference style things where I was just filming speakers who were like, hey, I do a conference every year where I sell tickets, but I can't do it anymore. So now we're going to produce that in an empty room, and then sell live streams or something like that. That was a huge thing. I did a few of those. And then other than that as well, doing like little commercials for people, man, and doing storytelling and doing stuff for churches, man, has been huge. Is so many ministries and nonprofits said, holy cow, like how are we supposed to have service? You know, live streaming service is fairly easy, but how do we creatively, especially if they're like a creative church, how do we creatively share what's happening? So they said, let's start doing story videos. So I had one church hire me for 5 videos, and I like, before even doing the first one, they were like, we need to start cranking these out quick. So we're going to do 5 story videos of people in our church who are doing different things that we want to share about what they're doing. And it's been crazy. It's been so cool to see other companies and other people who are running businesses say, okay, well, I don't want to go down this year. I don't want this to be the last year I'm able to do this. So how do we pivot and evolve, I guess, really? But it's been wild to see, and I'm sure you guys have seen it as well. And half of my weddings for this year have moved to next year, so that's been interesting, and it still happens. I had a wedding just yesterday say, hey, we're gonna move it a full year later.
Yeah.
Like, great, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Sorry to talk so much.
Oh no, that's fine with me. Like, yeah, what were you guys' like first? Because I mean, you touched on it briefly, but like, what were your first like gut reactions when things started? You started getting those like phone calls and stuff like that.
Can I swear?
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
That's basically all that happened. I was like, shit, fuck, damn it. And every time I got a new email, that's exactly what Brandon heard every time.
Yep.
Yeah. The first few weeks of everything was like kind of chaos because I think with everyone not really knowing what was going on. And I think for us, like, I will say, like, you know, the thing we don't want to talk about is like we had some weddings where we weren't sad to see them go.
Yep.
But unfortunately, yeah, that's the truth.
But at the same time, like, it also, you know, I think for us, it was kind of that like realization, and I think just something for everyone is like when you put all your eggs in one basket.
Yep.
That's something huge. One of my closest friends is an audio engineer, and we like, you know, worked together on a lot of things, and his main gig was traveling, you know, with musicians, touring. And I remember, you know, texting and, you know, chatting in person with him the weeks like leading up to all the lockdowns. And he was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, you know, if this goes through, like, you know, he had a part-time job at a church, but like, you know, is that really going to float me through all of this? And I mean, thankfully, you know, he's been one of my closest friends through this whole pandemic, and we've been able to like just, you know, keep each other accountable and be like, okay, what are we doing different? You know, we're not going to let this, you know, get us down. I know for me personally, it was a little bit demoralizing the first week of everything because so September 12th, I believe, was my first year of like full-time freelance. I've always held a coffee shop job prior to that, just to pay the bills and whatnot. And it was probably right around that like March time frame. I had like just gotten to the point where I was getting a lot of people like, you know, client after client, like inquiries. People were actually, you know, scheduling shoots. We were, you know, the momentum was building. And then literally all of those people dropped off the face of the earth as soon as everything locked down.
Yep.
And it's been really difficult because I like created something and I knew that I had the value to be able to like help them through this specific situation. And the fact that like a lot of those people still just like, I've emailed them back multiple times just to be like, hey, like, I hope you're doing well. And the non-response from people, it's like, it's a little bit sad for me personally, but at the same time, like, I understand where people are at. So I'm not going to like push them too hard. And, you know, whenever they come around and they want to, you know, come back and get some work done, I'll be here for them.
Yeah. You never know when that could come back around either. I met a guy in December of last year, and it was at a wedding, and he just came up and started talking to me, and I gave him my card, and he's like, do you do other stuff other than weddings? And I said, absolutely. That's what I do Monday through Thursday, basically, and then I shoot weddings all weekend. And him and I emailed back and forth a little bit. I gave him some pricing, and then never heard back from him. And I was like, man, that stinks. Like that would have been, maybe I blew him out of the water. Maybe I went too high, and you kind of question your thinking. And then he's the guy that called me and booked 5 videos on the spot.
Yeah.
And I hadn't talked to him in like 8 months, 9 months. He messaged me and was like, hey, we want to do this right now. Can you come in and we'll talk about it? And I said, sure. And then next thing we knew,
that's awesome.
We were rolling, and I was like, okay, great. This is great. I wonder what happened in that 8 months. You know, he must have just got the information and said, okay, I'll save that for later. You know, and,
putting out feelers.
Yeah, and that's happened many times, especially from weddings. You know, where we'll do weddings and I don't hear. You know, like I give someone a card and I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna hear from them. And then a year and a half later, they're like, hey, remember when we met at that wedding 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Like, sort of.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
It's like 6 months, 7 months.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey,
you're like
we're ready we'd like to book now. I'm like, what?
Yeah. What was your date again?
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yep. But congratulations on being freelance for a year. That's
huge, man. Congrats.
Thank you. I am very excited. It's been very rewarding.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things that we're both kind of learning, especially through like this pandemic, is we both love to work.
Yeah,
we're a bit of workaholics.
Yep.
Yeah. Which when I worked for a coffee shop was great because I would come home, I would be stressed about work for maybe like 20 minutes, and then it's like, okay, that's it. Like I have to move on. But now that everything is in my control, that's definitely something that I'm working on. And going into 2021, I'm hoping to be a little bit more focused on like quality of life outside of work.
Yeah.
Because I think, and that's something for me, like being able, getting into like podcast production, I'm able to delegate the majority of that work off to a sound engineer and someone else that can take care of all the details. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I 10 out of 10 recommend anyone that feels like they should start it. Actually, no, here's the better tagline. If you feel like you should sign up for Herbalife, you should probably start your own business instead.
Yeah. That's funny. My wife and I feel like we can relate. She's a teacher, and she's also in grad school to be a behavior analysis for autism and kids on the spectrum, that kind of thing. But we also found in this season that we are both workaholics. We remodeled our office in our house, and it became this mega. Just, I don't even know what to call it. Like, I don't want to call it mega desk because it's not a mega desk, but it is like everything is perfectly set up to where just the best working possibility can happen in the office. And we had to move it because it was our kitchen table. Our kitchen table was where we worked. And was that how it is for you guys?
So backstory. So Grace's mom gives us so much shit because from the moment we got married, we never actually had a kitchen table. And so we would always eat on the couch, eat on the floor. We literally would have friends over and like put yoga blocks and a piece of wood on the ground and pillows. And that's where we would eat dinner. So we just bought a house last December, and one of our big purchases was a kitchen table.
Congratulations.
Very exciting.
There you go.
A big ass kitchen table.
A big kitchen table. From day one, guess what that kitchen table was used for?
A desk.
Gracie Jones stamp and sticker doodle business.
Yep.
Nice.
Entirely taken over the kitchen table.
Yep.
I've had friends over for coffee once.
Yep. I recommend if you can. I understand it's nice to be like in the middle of things, and that's why we did it. Is because during COVID we could both sit there and work together and talk and like if we wanted to like reach over and pull the headphones off the other person to talk to him for 2 seconds, we could. But since she's a teacher, she got sent home in March. And they were like, teach remotely. Good luck. Yeah. See you in August. And
Oof.
I went from there to just basically editing everything at home. A lot of people were sending me edit work. So the two of us sat at our kitchen table, and I think in July, maybe August, we were like, we have to take our kitchen table back because it's not healthy. This is only for work, and like if we're in the living room, we have like our living room and dining room is the same. So it's like if we're in our living room, we're 2 steps away from working.
Yeah.
So we moved everything to the living room. We were like, no longer are we allowed to, like, I was wheeling my big computer chair out. I was like, this is not good that my computer chair sits at our kitchen table, you know? So we moved everything into the office, and they're like, the office is for work and the kitchen table is for mail. That's where the mail is.
It always is like a big stack of mail that you just kind of shift around the house till somebody
Once a month
goes
I go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, crap, we didn't pay this.
Yeah.
You're like, well, it was in the pile of mail.
Yeah. But it has brought some tranquility to our home now that, like, it's not just, it was so bad in August. Like, it was like just piles of work and papers and my computer and like so many MacBook chargers like leading up to the desk or the table. But we like finally set up our office, and like we went to IKEA and bought a ton of stuff and was like, if we're going to do it, let's just do it. Let's just buy what we need and make it mega office.
Mega desk.
I like,
need more mega desk.
And now we have like a shredder and stuff, and like,
oh man, you know you made it when you have your own shredder.
I bought a shredder. Yeah. But now it's like, that's it. That's where you work, and that's where we get so much stuff done, and it's nice because we're both in there now. We didn't have 2 desks before. That was part of it. Is like, let's get another desk and a nice chair, so it's like not annoying for someone else to come into their work. And now we actually have like 2 desks, and it's still like we were working in the dining room, except it's not in the middle of our dining room.
Yeah. It's a little bit more disconnected.
Yeah, that work-life balance is a very hard line to find.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult.
Him and his wife are the same way. You guys both working for yourselves right now.
Yeah. We both working for ourselves. That can be very, very challenging. Yeah, but yeah, it works out actually. So
yeah,
like we're at our office right now, and she's upstairs working. So
like it is good that you guys have this place to come to, and then when you're home. Is it a little easier?
Well, I've never had that. So, like, because we just got this office 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So I Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks was my office.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that like after a while you can only stay there for so long. Yep. So then I would take the work home, and then I'm working all the time.
Yeah.
Now, like when I'm at the office, that is like when I'm working, and when I'm home, I would say for like 95%, I have been able to not work while I'm there, and I think that's been life changing.
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah, I feel healthier.
Yeah, that's good.
That's pretty amazing.
This is unrelated to weddings, but I want to go back to your sticker design business because I've been trying to learn more about like how to gain a following like on TikTok and that kind of stuff. Have you looked into the TikTok at all? With the stickers
I
stuff?
had it just for watching videos.
Yeah.
I am not a fan of doing videos of myself per se. So yeah, me doing TikTok probably isn't going to ever happen.
Yeah. I was just saying I have another podcast with a friend of mine, Carter, and he's like 19 years old, and he does these like. He'll take like right now he's doing the Grinch, but in different styles. So like he'll do it as like the Grinch as SpongeBob or like the Fairly Odd Parents or something. And he sells his merch. Like he'll sell like those designs on T-shirts and stuff. And he's just been killing it. It's crazy. Like the reaction people on TikTok have to that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm always genuinely impressed with how fast certain people adopt like different social media channels.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, when I was in, junior high school, like I was all about, Facebook, Instagram, like all that stuff. But now that I'm 27, I realize I'm turning into a grandpa so fast.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I literally, but it also like it plays into like kind of the brand and like the idea that I'm working with like a lot of the storytelling that I do. Like, my value proposition a couple of years ago would have been, oh yeah, I can do a 1-minute video and I'll have it edited by the end of tonight because that's what we need in life.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's listening to too much Joe Rogan, but I think I've realized that like we need deeper connections.
Mm.
And so I think like I'm trying to figure out how to adopt a more like a deeper side to posting to social media and that sort of a thing. But I even thought of an idea the other day, just like, instead of sharing videos with people on a regular basis, just mailing out thumb drives with like my film, because like I want people to feel like they're getting something that's like special.
Yeah.
Because I think in the world, like media and everything that we do, whether it's podcasts, videos, photos. I mean, I think about the expectations of a wedding photographer to bring it full circle. Like, you know, a few years ago, or, you know, I think when I was growing up, so, you know, early 2000s, to get several thousand images from your wedding was just unheard of.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know, I've heard of photographers that have gotten destroyed by their clients because they didn't deliver enough photos. And it's like, you know, how many photos do you need?
Yeah.
And like in a creative world, we take it for granted. But like when you start realizing like most people don't have access to what we just take, you know, for granted on a daily basis, having like good photos and that sort of a thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually been getting into film photography lately, and there is such a, you know, like following some like film photographers that do weddings and that kind of stuff, and just the intentionality that goes into, you know, like everything has to be manual, and then getting that physical, like having to take it out, get it scanned, and I don't know, like I think that slowed down process is something that like is kind of coming back, you know. Have you guys ever experimented with film at all?
I haven't.
I have quite a bit.
Oh,
that's actually like, it's kind of a catch-22 because my small group of friends in Columbus are very much into film, and we would have very, very heated debates about whether film or digital is better.
nice.
I'm firmly in camp digital, primarily because I could see the style to shooting film, but I will come full circle on this and say that something that I am trying to do going into 2021 is taking more film photos for me personally. Having pivoted my entire business to be video only and more focused on story, for personal creative, I want to have a film camera and, you know, have that slowed down feeling, be in the moment. Whenever we get to travel for weddings and that sort of a thing, I feel like, you know, if you're taking photos on an iPhone or digital camera, you're just like taking photos for the sake of taking photos, and you don't get to have those in-person memories. I mean, I think about some of the clearest memories that I have, and it was before I actually had like a real camera to like take photos on a regular basis. So trying to like intentionally go back to that feeling. I heard a friend a few years ago basically said he didn't want any photos at his wedding because he wanted to like actually have the memories from the day.
Huh,
so him and his wife weren't on the same page about it, so they split the difference.
Yeah,
and they have one.
It rarely is.
They have one photo.
One.
Yeah.
One.
And that's the photo that hangs over their fireplace. And he's like, look, I remember the day because I was there, I was present, and that's all I need.
Wow.
They did the Jim and Pam, like the mental.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, the guy that taught me how to do everything, his name's Matt, and he's actually a 5th gen photographer, I think. 4th or 5th generation. His dad did photography his whole life, and then so on. I think his dad was the first one in his family to it be his sole income, but his dad shot film like back in the 70s, you know, in the 60s at weddings, and you got like 5 photos from your wedding.
Yeah.
And that's how my parents did. Like they only have 5 photos from their wedding, and it's you have the photo of you kissing, one big family photo, maybe photo with your parents, cake cutting,
first dance.
And I don't even know if they have first dance. I think it was like just a post, like a really awkwardly posed photo. But that was it, you know, and the guy, like, that's all he came with. He's like, I came with 5, like I take 5 pictures. That's it. You know, there's no expectation, but also he was also making, I think $100 a wedding at that point.
Yeah.
You know, which I don't know what that translates to today, but I feel like it's probably still not that much. You know,
I was going to say adjusted for inflation, probably close to $10,000, but you know,
I mean, maybe. I think when my parents got married, they were spending $100 a month on their rent, I think.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh.
What a time.
So maybe $100 is like a decent amount, I guess.
Yeah.
At the time.
Gas was like 70 cents.
Probably, yeah. It probably was, yeah.
Yeah. But something that I've learned about just shooting film for myself, because I had just recently got into photography like the last couple years, about like a T7i, and then this last year about the ESR, and
Nice.
So I've like I started learning on digital, and then when I found a film camera at like this thrift store, and I wanted it mostly for the lenses. And then this last year, like actually it was like right before the pandemic started, I was like, I'm gonna try to actually like shoot with this thing, and I've just become kind of it's an expensive obsession, that's for sure.
Yes.
But it has taught me to be more intentional with my digital photos, and that's something that I kind of have, this past year I've like really gotten to like, oh, like I'm not just like relying on the computer in that camera to like just make it look pretty. I'm like, all right, we're actually like, there's that exposure. Like it's not just like clicking a button to me now. It's like, all right, I'm actually like, the heart of photography is capturing light bouncing off of subjects, and that's kind of changed my whole like dynamic onto just taking photos in general. So yeah, what kind of film camera do you have, or do you want, I guess?
So.
Oh no.
I
can leave now. I think he'll just finish
Is he about
the
to
rest
say
of this with that conversation.
You about to say the L word?
Huh? Oh, no. I'm going with the H word.
Okay, all right.
So I currently don't have a film camera.
Okay.
Take that back. I have one like really crappy point and shoot camera that I bought at an Amish thrift store for literally $1.
Nice.
I ran one roll of film through it. It kind of works. No, so the direction that I'm looking for film is mostly just like medium format.
Okay.
Here in Columbus, I was just at Midwest the other day, and they have a extremely beautiful, pristine condition Hasselblad 500 CM.
Oh, gosh.
Which I have been looking at.
That's a phenomenal camera.
I've been looking at on eBay for the past 2 months. I'm considering.
I knew it was going to be either Hasselblad, Mamiya, or like a Phase 1, like something really ridiculous. Right?
Yeah. So for me, the draw to that is primarily the 6x6 format. So, square. I think it'll help with simplicity and composition. But also for me, a very important thing is the size. I primarily want this as like a travel camera. I also have some other ambitions with it in terms of like my own personal podcast, that sort of a thing. Being able to utilize film as a medium to, attach to whatever content I'm sharing, but also just to be able to create those memories and have something simple. And also like kind of thinking like future generations, like this is something I want to be able to hand down, at some point later in life, because, I was like kind of like behind the scenes getting a little emotional hearing about, multiple photographers in the family, because like I don't have that history. Like I just did a video with my grandpa recently and got to, hear stories about how, his dad would, whenever people would come over to the house, he was the entertainer of the family and would just tell stories for hours and hours on end. And, I remember my youngest memories was, listening to my grandpa telling stories for hours and hours on end and realizing that, oh, this is something that's just like part of the family. But in terms of those like physical, like, this is my grandpa's heirloom, Hasselblad, Leica, whatever it is, like I don't have that family history or that sort of a thing to my knowledge, at least. And so that's something I kind of want to be able to change and be able to say, hey, like I was a filmmaker, a storyteller, and now I get to, have this thing to be able to hand down, because my digital camera is like, man, those will probably be sold by 2022 if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
That's
like, so quickly.
Exactly. But having something like that that's just so mechanical and physical, like to be able to pass that along.
Yeah. And those things
at some point would be a beautiful thing.
Those things were built like tanks too.
They
like
really are.
And the
100%.
The amazing thing to me is that like, other than like some little quirks and maybe some like light leaks and stuff, which is super easy to fix, like those things hold up. Like the the artistry and like the engineering that went into those kind of cameras is like, there's something special about it. And I don't, it's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
And the shutter sound, you can't beat that.
Oh, you can't beat that at all. And each one has a distinct sound, and it feels so good when you.
Yes.
Man, there's nothing like it. But I also, going back to the weddings, I saw that you guys offer like mentor sessions. Is that like training other photographers, videographers? How does or how many people do you guys work with now?
I don't do a lot of that anymore. I used to do a lot more. But I've kind of like taken a step back from that just to try to figure out what exactly I want to do. Because like I could fill my schedule easily with a bunch of different things, but I'm in a time of my life where I just need to take a step back and visualize everything and figure out what I want to do. And so that's where I'm at right now.
Nice. I feel like it's a good year for that. Trying to.
I mean, I kind of got forced into that, I think, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I feel like the one positive thing about this year it's kind of forced everybody to like look at themselves and be like, all right, what am I doing? Where's the direction of my life going? Like career wise, like relationship wise, that kind of stuff. And I feel like, I mean, all three of us too, we've had that, like, you've had to have a hard look in the mirror of like, all right, what am I trying to do with my life? And very existential.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for sure.
I have a question. Canon, Nikon, or Sony?
I use Canon. Brandon uses a Sony.
Yeah.
It's a good combo.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, we always like to ask that. Me and Tyler like Canon.
Yeah.
I guess Brandon you also have a Fuji and what's the other one that you have?
I like to say I'm camera brand agnostic.
I think that's good.
Over my entire photographic and video career, I've shot with Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, Fuji, Canon, Sony, back to Panasonic. And that's about where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Nice.
The Sony only kind of worked out because Grace, I rented one for a trip, and whenever she got the colors back and everything, because that's like a big thing for her, I wanted it for the video features.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can match this to my photos. Actually, I will be honest. In the beginning, she said she loved the colors more than her Canon.
Oh my!
Which was a shocker because she's been shooting on that for 10 years.
Yeah.
Now it's just tolerable.
Declining rapidly.
Yes.
What are you shooting on?
2.
Grace.
I use Mark IVs.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Dude, there are some amazing deals on Facebook Marketplace for Mark IVs.
Yeah, it makes me kind of sick. I paid like $3,600 for my first one, I think, when it first came out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just bought one in February, used with less than 5,000 shutters on it for $1,600.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And I was like, what? How is this real life that I don't know, it made me sick, but
I know I held out buying a second Mark IV for a while just because I was like, is the price ever going to go down?
Yep.
And then my Mark IIIs were like on their last limb. So I was like, I just have to buy it. I can't wait any longer. Yeah,
and they're great. I think they're a good middle point. Like I thought about doing the EOS R type route and getting into doing the mirrorless stuff, but I don't know. There's just something about the 5D body that is just it's so solid. And now that they, at least the Mark IV has like great video. It's good for a little while yet. I feel like before I become not useful in the video world. Yeah, still got some time.
Yeah. So how would
we rented a EOS R for a wedding, and I wasn't thrilled. I do not like mirrorless cameras.
It feels a little. Don't get mad at me, Adam.
Oh no, it's sorry.
I think the EOS R is incredible, and people like Maddie and Peter McKinnon and like all these guys that's like they rave about it. I think it still makes me feel like I'm using a Rebel because it's so small, and like even the controls on it are not like the Mark IV. or like they're not like a normal full frame Canon where it's like you still have to press buttons and hit things to change your settings. And I just like,
yeah, I don't know why they like, you know, I bought it. There was a really good deal last Christmas at B&H, and that's why, because it came with like a battery grip, and I like having the grip because I like taking a lot of portrait like photos. But yeah, like, and I mean, it's something I've learned on, so I've gotten really used to it. Like I never really messed around with Mark IV too much, or the 5D at all. So I kind of like, I'm growing through the mirrorless system, and so, but the thing I do like about it is that like there is that portability, and there's just so many cool things like with like focus peaking. I can use a lot of those vintage lenses, and I can nail focus pretty much every time because it will highlight like where your subject is. But yeah, and there's so many things that I wish that I think like the ESR5 kind of fixed, but also like the heating thing.
Yeah.
But who shoots an 8K anyways?
right.
But
Yeah.
So how would you describe your style?
Oh gosh. This is like my least favorite question in the whole wide world because I never know what to say. It comes from a place of sincerity, I feel like. And anything that I do, I want to be sincere and I want to be honest with what I'm photographing. I don't want to put my feelings, my emotions, like I don't want to project that onto my subject. I want them to be themselves. I want that to come through in the photos. So I would say that's basically it. So it'd be more raw, like documentary kind of vibe.
Okay, I dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like it's also like an ever evolving thing too. Because I used to try to be more like posy and wedding, yeah, whatever. More like, you know, like traditional wedding stuff. And then I was like, this doesn't feel right. So how can I make it more honest and true to the subjects in front of my camera?
Yeah, and I'm looking through some.
I kind of feel like it's like less of following trends and more of just like allowing people to be who they are. I think, you know, that's something the way Grace shoots kind of rubbed off on me and how I approach like doing like videos and everything too. And I think it really like helps people because it's, you know, I mean, I'm comfortable in my video business telling people just flat out like, hey, if this is what you're looking for, you know, you want a trendy, you know, transition heavy VFX, whatever, like I have a list of videographers I can send you. But if you want what I'm offering, cool, let's go for it. Yeah. But I'm just going to warn you up front, there's going to be very little preparation because that's not how I operate.
Yeah.
Which being comfortable with it has been great. And I think Grace has been really comfortable just telling people like, hey, we're here to document who you are.
I mean, it's all about expectations, like setting them up front and be like, this is exactly what we do. And we don't really stray from that. We won't look at your Pinterest board. We don't do any of that. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I like your guys' style. You guys have like, I think you would fall into that like maybe more dark and moody, but it's very unique, especially with your colors and the way that like I like how the blacks are very like rich and they are very dark, but the colors like you really use the environment around your subjects, and I don't know, I like it.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you.
I think something that this is just we haven't discussed this at all. We're not super prepared when it comes to the podcast. Yeah. Adam always has a list of questions, and then I just like
that's what
do it. I saw you guys, I don't know if you still do it a whole lot, but I saw at one point in time you guys were doing the bursts, like the GIF videos.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought those were so cool. I saw that and I was like, man, I'm so mad I didn't think of that first.
Wait, what is this?
It's like, so do you guys do, so big question, is that a video that you slice up or is it a true burst of photos?
What do you think it is? From looking at it, what do you think it is?
I want to say it's I want to say it's a video that you just cut up, but I knew I had a feeling. I was like, but I think it's probably actually photos.
Yes, I like to make things very difficult for myself.
I figured
250,000 photos later.
I bet.
Oh, man.
Why don't you just do a video and then cut it up?
Because I like to make things difficult.
Yeah. I guess either way, it would be a lot of work because you're either like editing a ton of photos or you're going through and cutting half frames out every frame.
And the thing that I like about doing the pictures is because I edit them so they match my photos exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
like
harder.
That's
It's
just
harder.
something that we haven't been able to do with video yet. So that's why I kind of did the pictures.
Yep.
Because then it's like exactly my pictures, and then I can pull photos from that too to put into like galleries and stuff. So you're getting kind of like the best of both worlds. You get photos and you get video things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're awesome. Hey, Carson, I guess they basically just do I don't know how long of a burst you guys do, but
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to interject.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, quick plug. Grace actually made a GIF making course where she goes through her entire process of how to make GIFs. So it's pretty close. It's basically like 3 to 4 second burst. So we recommend
until my Mark IV stops taking photos.
I would say recommend like camera that shoots like approximately 8 frames a second as like the minimum, because otherwise it starts to get a little bit too choppy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you drop all those photos into Lightroom. Okay, well you'll have to buy the course.
Yeah,
I don't know the actual link, but
they built a GIF.
Okay,
they built it's like a GIF that runs.
You made your own term for it too.
I did. It's a GIF video.
Oh yeah, that's good.
That's genius.
It's super cool. I did a similar one.
I remember you talking to me
I did
about
one
this
for
a long time ago.
engagements. My wife and I've been pulling her into photography and video world. She's
awesome.
a quick learner and is a wonderful assistant because she's allowed to tell girls that they need to change the way they're doing something because they won't be happy with it later. And that's something that guys don't know how to do. I can't say, hey, why don't you like pull your chin up so you don't do this thing? But a girl can say, hey, honey, why don't you try this? And
it's a lot less.
It's just so much less stress when she's there. But I did one her and I were both shooting, and I had her do a burst of an engagement, and it was like really cool. And I just built a little. I'm not going to call it a GIF video because I can't use that term because I didn't take your course. But
you can use it.
I did build a little GIF for them that they could post on Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
You owe her some royalties.
Yeah.
See, for the last question I had for you guys, what's one piece of advice that you would give a couple planning their wedding? Maybe you could even tailor it to like this year, like what's for going into 2021 or 2022. What are some things that they should be like front of mind?
Do what you want to do, and don't let your family tell you to do things that you don't want to do. Nope.
I would echo that, and I would say also like just remember at the end of the day, like what are you going to remember down the road? I think like the thing that we like day of experiences are one thing, but how you're going to remember your wedding day is what you're going to have forever. I think about like we've had it happen several times, but a lot of brides and grooms tend to not be fully there on their wedding day. Mm-hmm. And that's just like a thing. Like, we, didn't have any alcohol at our wedding just because that's not our thing. And I still barely remember our wedding day outside of, the photos and video that we have. There were some other things that happened on the wedding day that just like caused a lot of drama and chaos. But I think being intentional, when you're hiring a photographer or videographer, you're literally hiring someone to create art and to create the memories that you're going to remember. And so if you really want to, pay someone a couple $100 to come bring their camera and snap a few pics, like that's one thing, but just know that you're going to have $200 memories for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Actually, I looked up this, I saw this on like an Instagram post the other day where it says, tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. And
I like that.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was the best quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, there's some things like, and I think this is like an important thing for weddings, is that, you're creating your own family. When a wedding is happening, that's the whole point. Like you're no longer, two separate families, but you're becoming your own thing. And so like, coming up with your own traditions, having, being like, this is our wedding. We can, you can take some of the things your family does, but if there's something that you're not a fan of, or you're like, I don't want to do that. I feel like, families put a lot of pressure on brides and grooms. And so, and when it's really your day and you can do what you want with, you can have it your way, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you have something?
100%.
I did have something, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It always matters, Tyler.
I was just gonna say it doesn't matter now because that was a good ending point, and I feel like if I bring it up now, it's gonna be. I was gonna say it's like in any industry, you get what you pay for, as far as like cheap to not cheap. I feel like there's like a point where it's like, okay, well, I could spend a few $1,000s or I could spend $10,000, and like sometimes there's not a huge difference, but when it's like $200 for someone to come and snap a few photos versus a photographer who charges a few $1,000s, chances are good they're good at their job and there's a reason they charge that much, or they're bad at their job and there's a reason they're charging $200 for their wedding.
Yeah.
I just
there's also the security of it.
Yeah.
Like I think like I'm very like nerdy about the like very unsexy things about wedding, like photography and filmmaking, which is like, are you backing up your footage?
Mm-hmm.
Are you,
man.
We're not at that like perfect, we're not exactly where I want us to be, but we're pretty close. I remember we had one couple, they like inquired with us and they were asking us what our like backup situation was.
Interesting.
That's a smart
And we're
couple.
like, well, we're shooting to 2 memory cards on the day of. We like immediately back everything up to 3 locations when we get home. Like, they're like, well, what would you do in the event of a failure? And I'm like, we've done everything we can and we've never had a failure because we have all these systems in place. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, do you want me to be backing it up throughout the day? Like, do I need to hire someone? Like,
yeah.
No, it made me laugh because they asked about, does your camera back up through Wi-Fi or like Bluetooth? And I was like, that's a new question.
Yeah,
some cameras do that, but it's very slow.
Did you end up doing their wedding?
yes.
No.
Oh, thank God.
I don't think they liked my answers.
You dodged a bullet, I have a feeling.
Yeah. Sometimes you can just tell by questions
Yep.
that are just like...
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
You're like, this will be a problem.
We're not going to work together.
Or maybe it's not the question, it's more of their replies to the question.
Yeah.
It's like a little too much.
Yeah.
At this point, I do back up at the reception wherever I'm eating. I set up my computer and I'm dumping footage or photos. I'm just so freaked out about losing anything that I like.
And I think that's also another thing that like somebody that's charging $200 for a wedding versus someone that's charging a few $1,000s for a wedding, the backup process, the hard drives, there's all that cost that goes into just preserving those photos that you've taken on that day. Whereas somebody that's charging $200 probably doesn't. They might be working with like the EOS R. That's the rough thing about that is there's only one card, but they might not be able to be switching cards out or having any system whatsoever.
Yeah,
so
they got like a 16 gig memory card they're working with, and
Micro Center special.
Yeah,
something they got from like an old camera.
Yeah,
from
it came with it.
Early 2000s.
For sure. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but,
And sorry, one thing that totally just like popped into my mind, something you were saying earlier. I think something that just like ultimately across the board in all of our industries as creatives, something I've really been diving into this year, just business across the board, is there are some people out there that literally just have money they want to spend on things.
Yep.
Something I was literally thinking about this morning is thinking about the concept of like, oh, I have money burning a hole in my pocket. And it's kind of a weird thing, but I think that something we could all do as creatives across the board, and something I'm trying to like share with as many people as possible, is this idea that people want to buy things, but they also want to buy luxury things. And I think if we can create those experiences across the board or whatever it is, I have a handful of ideas that will stay safely in my head currently, because I would like to have us offer them ultimately at some point down the road. But I think that like there are things we can do as creatives to make that experience just so much better for people. And yeah, I'm famous for having stories that just kind of drop off a cliff. So that's about as far as I was going with that thought. But
No, I like it.
I never know when he finishes a sentence because it just stops. Like it doesn't. I can never tell whenever he finishes the sentence. So I'm always just sitting there like waiting for more, and there's never more, and I'm always like, is that the end of your sentence?
That's funny.
Yeah,
I promise my stories are way better than that.
You have like a walkie-talkie, be like, over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you guys for coming on the podcast. This is awesome. This is
great.
Thank you.
It was fun learning from you guys and just kind of talking about. It's just nice to talk to people that are in the industry and have been going through a lot of the same things. And hopefully, this was helpful for our audience and people that are planning weddings, and gave them some things to think about.
Can we let them plug? Can we give?
Oh yeah,
plug it in.
Plug away.
Plug your stuff. Anything you're working on that you want people to know about.
Yeah, and your Instagram and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Grace E. Jones, Grace letter E, Jones, not like Gracie. And that's my website too, so graciejones.com.
And I am simply at Brandon Goodyear on Instagram, and my website is brandongoodyear.com. It is going to be under construction very soon to update and reflect more current things. Instagram is where you can see some of my most recent work. Trying to change that to a blog. So
Nice.
Hopefully that will be a 2021 goal. Trying to set that up and make it easy.
Nice.
That'll work. And we'll have all that stuff in our like show notes and everything. So, but yeah, we thank you for coming on the podcast, and for everybody listening, we'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Wedding Workflow Podcast. Join us next Wednesday for another episode. And if you've enjoyed our show, please leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts to help us move up in the rankings. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Wed Workflow Pod. And you can find us on Facebook at The Wedding Workflow. Also, please send us an email with any questions or topics you'd like us to cover at theweddingworkflow@gmail.com. And we will see you next week.